Hello everyone, this is part 15 of What If Naruto and Hinata Had a Kid, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. I think someone has a crush. Ino mused to the other two adults sitting on the bench. It's hard to see who has a crush on whom. Chuji added on her other side. Hinata laughed, looking over the two children sitting in a sandbox a little ways beyond them. They had decided to have lunch at a small children's area in the park. For now they were done with lunch and the kids could not resist the urge to play in the sand. Kenji and Yumi were playing sweetly, making sand piles, saying they were sand castles. Her little girl laughed and smiled with the boy, and from afar they did look like a sweet kid couple. This lasted until Kenji threw a handful of sand into the little girl's face, who instead of crying retaliated into pushing him into the sand. From then the three adults watched their fun spiral into a sandbox death match, and they were forced to intervene when Yumi had Kenji's head buried in the sand. Hinata pulled her daughter off the boy and Ino helped her cousin up and rushed him to the bathroom to clean the sand out of his eyes. Since her daughter only had some sand particles in her hair and clothes, Hinata pulled her over the bench to wait for Ino and Chuji. "What did I tell you about being nice?" Hinata scolded at once. "He started," Yumi insisted. "He did not shove your head into the sand, Yumi. He started," she said again, this time her anger causing tears to burn in her eyes. While it was true, yes, the boy did start it, Hinata tried hard to teach her daughter not to fight violence with more violence. She knew firsthand this was not the way to live in a civilized world. The world outside of ninja violence the little girl believed her father was a Superman in. "When they come out, you are going to apologize to him?" Hinata demanded. "No." Yumi was now full force into tears and quickly going into angry sobs. "Yes, you are," Hinata warned. Her daughter didn't fight, but she cried. The next morning when she woke up, he was already up and in the kitchen. He asked if she was hungry and she sleepily shook her head. She stretched and changed, deciding to take a shower after neglecting one the previous night. After spending too long in the hot shower, she rejoined her husband in their apartment. He looked like he was in a good mood this morning, talking and attempting to make jokes to see her smile, but for the life of her she could find nothing to smile about. She sat with him at the table but avoided looking at him. His words from the day before still echoed in her head like a horrible dream, but it was no dream at all. It had really happened. He really said those horrible things, and worst of all, he had really meant them. "Sasuke told me about a mission," he spoke to her as he sat down. She didn't look up to him, so he continued. "You said I should go on more mission, so what do you think?" Her eyes fell to the table. He had placed food in front of her and it smelled good, but for some reason she had no appetite. "Are you sure you're okay? You're not eating?" Naruto spoke, his voice sounded concerned. Was he really concerned? Or was he just acting it because he was supposed to? "Just not hungry," she admitted, and he nodded. "So what do you think of the mission?" he said again. Was he seeking her approval? Why did he care what she thought? Questions and angry thoughts filled her head. Pain turned into anger, anger turned into more pain. And cycle began to stir, pain and angry began to pulse through her. Angry at the man in front of her, hurt by his words and false action, confused by his true intentions. "Hinata, you should go," she said quietly, poking at her food. "You think so?" Sasuke said it was an S mission. He said he and Kakashi needed a third. He kept talking but she stopped listening. She wanted to be alone suddenly. She didn't want to be around him. She didn't want to hear his voice or see his face. She suddenly couldn't stand it. She stood up and he stopped talking. "I'm going to go for a walk," she said shortly. Maybe her temper showed through her quiet voice because his big blue eyes blinked confused at her. "I just want to take a walk," she said, her hands on the table. "Okay, a walk sounds nice. It's a nice morning, we can." "No, I'd like to go alone." Sure, if you want. You going to be okay?" "I'll be fine." Without a goodbye or an explanation, she was out the door. She thought she managed to hold on to her emotions enough not to get Naruto to ask too many questions. Then again, when it came to her mood swings, he never really asked questions. She always figured it was because he didn't understand. Because, like her, this was all still so new to him. It was bigger than both of them and they were trying to cope the best they were. But was that it, or did he not ask because not only did he not understand but maybe he didn't want to understand? Maybe he really didn't want any of this. Outside the sun was hot and bright, it burned her eyes. She wandered around, going nowhere particular and just letting her feet drag along the dirt slowly beneath her. Everything that happened yesterday replayed in her head like an old movie, the doctor, then lunch, then with her father and seeing him and Sasuke. Everything just collided with each other into one big blurry picture until the only thing she could see clearly was him looking up at the sky, sighing and saying those words that had hurt her so much. She wandered to the shady area by the bridge. The area where she had fallen in the snow and he had found her and taken her home. A home that had become their home after he asked her to marry him after she had said they didn't have to. She slumped down the tree and her eyes dazed, watching the townspeople bustle but not really watching him at all. She wondered why she didn't cry. She didn't even feel tears like she had the night before. Perhaps she had cried so much her body had run out of tears to give her to cry. Was that possible? Well, with all the crying she did last night, it might as well be. What was to happen now? Should she tell him she knew what he had said? He would wonder how she knew and she would have to tell she was eavesdropping and he would be upset she had spied, but did he have ground to be upset with her? She had gone to apologize. She had gone to set what she had done wrong right. There was no denying what he said. She had heard it from his very lips and she knew it was true. He had no way of knowing she was there. He never would have said something if he knew she was there. Would he leave her? Would he tell her their marriage needed to end? Would he still let her live there if that happened? Would she still want to live there? If she didn't, then where could she go? She couldn't go home, she wasn't even on the family tree anymore. She couldn't go and rely on Sakura again, that put just too much on her. She had nowhere to go, so even if he did the unthinkable and left, there was nowhere else for her to go. She would have to stay and relive the heartbreak until she could get a place of her own, but with her paychecks as a part-time librarian that wasn't likely to happen anytime soon. Hey pretty lady, what are you doing out here all alone? A shadow came up blocking the bright but dazed out sun. She blinked and looked up at her intruder. For the first time she smiled a real but small smile. Hi Kiba, she said quietly but didn't move when he took a seat next to her. So what are you doing out here? He repeated. Fresh air, she said, her eyes still following the people in front of them. A mother was being tugged along by a persistent toddler. She watched them until they were out of sight. Naruto starting to get to you. He said it with a laugh, but when she looked down he frowned. What's wrong? And nothing's wrong, she lied, still looking at her hands. Why do you ask? Because you're crying. Her hands flew to her eyes. She touched moisture under her lids and on her cheeks. When did she begin to cry? Hormones, she said, sucking up her tears. She couldn't cry in front of Kiba. He knew her too well to know when something was really wrong, and if she told him, there was no telling what Kiba would do. He was as unpredictable as Naruto and sometimes just as dangerous. Have you eaten? He asked suddenly. What? Hinata looked at him, her eyes still rimmed with tears. Well, you said it was hormones, so what if you ate? I mean, you're pregnant and all, and I know pregnant women like to eat, right? She looked at Kiba for a long moment, taking in his features. He was a handsome boy who had grown into a handsome man. He wasn't as wild as he used to be. He was actually kind and somewhat gentle when he wanted to be. He said and did things he thought should be said and always tried to make her feel better, even in smallest ways. He was smiling at her, not the fang-like smile he gave everyone, but a genuine smile to make her smile and stop crying. That would be nice, she said, finally letting her lips slide into a sweet smile when he helped her up. What are you in the mood for? Anything is fine, she said, taking his arm when he offered it to her. He started talking of how Ino wasn't as good as she was in their training, and even though she knew he wasn't telling the complete truth, she smiled nonetheless. Kiba was a great friend. At the restaurant he got him a table by the window, telling her he knew she liked the window seats and she was surprised he remembered that. He let her order whatever she wanted, and she ordered a lot because she hadn't eaten at home and she didn't realize how hungry she really was. While they waited for the food, they kept conversation simple. Hinata wanted to know how their training really was going, and he told her about all the stories of how Ino and him seemed to fight constantly. It wasn't until after the meal and they were waiting for dessert because she had the sudden craving for something sweet and cold did the topic change to her baby. Is it a boy or a girl? He asked her as she licked her fork. I don't know. But can't you tell by now? I don't want to know. She said, smiling. What do you mean you don't want to know? I want it to be a surprise. Kiba looked confused by this and she giggled. His confused face could be quite cute. Do you at least know what you want to name it? If it's a boy, Naruto wants to name it after his father, and if it's a girl, I get to name it. So any ideas? Not really. Picking a name out is hard. It's going to stuck with him or her for the rest of her life. They were quiet again and Hinata's eyes lit up when the dessert came. The waiter brought 2 spoons for their ice cream, placing it between them. Hinata blushed at the inclination this was supposed to mean, but Kiba didn't seem to notice. Are you going to go back to being a ninja? She thought for a moment. She missed being a ninja so much, she missed everything about it, but could she really do it and take care of a child? I don't know, I want to, I miss it, but a baby takes a lot of care. You should, Kiba said, taking a spoon and scooping up some ice cream. You can get back into training with one of us and be back in action in no time. You can always find a babysitter, or you and Naruto can switch off who's going to on a mission and who's going to take care of the kid. Yeah, she agreed and then sighed. Kiba looked at her with a knowing stare, he knew that sigh well. Catching his eyes, she smiled and stuffed her face again. Speaking of Naruto, where is he? Kiba said, changing the subject. At home, I think. Not with you. No, I needed a walk to myself. Did I intrude? Hinata laughed. No, you didn't. Besides, it's been a while since we've talked. We talked yesterday. He tilted his head. I mean, really talked, just you and me. True, but it's pretty impossible, you know. With your new job and with my missions. Yeah, it is. Oh hey, about yesterday, is Naruto going to return to missions? For some reason Kiba looked anxious about his. He's considering it. That's good. A silence fell between them as they finished their ice cream. They talked a little more about nothing really important, staying away from heavy subjects and keeping conversation light. After they ate, they left and walked around town, continuing to catch up. It didn't take long for Hinata to forget all about her dilemma with her husband back home. Her friend had made her smile again and she didn't want to leave that too soon. As they neared the bridge again and got closer to her home, Hinata saw Sakura making her way away from her home. Hinata reached up and waved to her while Kiba hollered her down. Sakura ran to them. Hinata wondered what she was doing there, but then remembered their shopping date. Was it still noon? She was sure it was well past it. Hey, there you are, Sakura said, catching up to them. I was just at your place. Naruto said he had no idea where you were. Just out for a walk, she said, smiling up at her friend. I wanted to come by and tell you I can't do the shopping thing today. I have a mission and I need to pack for it. Oh, also Naruto said he's going on a mission with Sasuke tomorrow too. Glad you were able to talk him into going back in the field. I know he was anxious about it with you and the baby and all. Sakura smiled, but Hinata couldn't keep the smile sliding from her face. Naruto never told her he had actually agreed on the mission. He told her he was just thinking about it. When did he make this decision? When was he planning on telling her this? I know he misses it, she said with a smile again on her face, and Sakura bid them farewell. I should probably go too. Shino said something about doing some training with Ino today because of our fight yesterday. Kiba said, stretching his arms over his head. I'll see you around, okay? Take care of yourself and that kid. He smiled at her, patting her on the head as he left the opposite way they were walking, leaving her alone. When she got to her apartment, she saw Naruto already packing up his traveling pack. She closed the door slowly behind her. The good mood she had been in while she walked with Kiba seemed to have gone along with him. She was sad again, sad, upset, and now beginning to get angry. Where are you going? She asked in a small voice. He looked up at her with a smile that only surged more anger through her. My mission with Sasuke, we leave tomorrow morning. She watched him back, never moving from her spot on the door. If he was going tomorrow, then chances are she wouldn't see him for a very long time. How long will you be gone? She asked quietly again. Dunno, A long time probably. She nodded, biting her lip and looking down at her hands. Naruto, she began, and he stopped what he was doing. You didn't tell me you decided on going on the mission. She said, her voice beginning to quiver with her emotions. I told you this morning before you left. Where did you go anyway? I was starting to get worried. Sakura came by looking for you and I had no idea where you went. He sounded worried but stern. Was he really worried? I met up with Kiba. But you never told me you agreed to go on the mission. You said you were thinking about it. She looked up at him. He had his back turned to her now, looking into his pack, making sure he had everything. You should tell me about things like this, she said quietly, twisting her fingers into each other. Her wedding band caught her eye and she shut her eyes to draw back the tears. Naruto, she said again, this time a bit louder. Do you want to come back? He stopped what he was doing and she could feel his eyes on her. She looked up to him, blue eyes hard and confused. Do I? What? Of course I do, Hinata. I live here, this is my home. No, I mean, do you want to come back to me? She couldn't stop the tears beginning to glisten in her eyes. What are you talking about? Of course I want to come back to you, Hinata. Why are you crying? She took a deep breath. She got this far, might as well go a bit further. Because I heard you, she said, whipping the tears away, praying for them to stop. Heard me? You and Sasuke? I heard you say. She couldn't repeat those words. She couldn't say them without breaking down again. Naruto, why did you marry me? If it was true, if it was really true, she had to hear it from him. She had to know why. She deserved to know why. Because, the baby. She didn't know why, but she laughed. She laughed and then felt that familiar pain in her chest she knew was about to snowball into an onslaught of sobbing very fast. That's why. Because of the baby. Not because of me. Hinata, I don't know what you mean. I married you because you said you needed me, remember? You said you couldn't do this alone, and I couldn't just leave you. I told you we didn't have to get married. She said, looking down. She couldn't look at him. How could she ever look at him again? I told you, Naruto, I wanted you to marry me because you love me. Do you love me? Yes, I love you. Why are you so upset? There was something different in his voice. Something harder that wasn't there before. He didn't understand why she was mad, because to him he had done the right thing. You didn't marry me because you wanted you, Naruto. You married me because you thought you had to. She said it and the tears came alone with that flood of painful crying. He didn't say anything. He didn't have anything to say because she was right and they both knew it. I told you I did want this in life, but the timing was off. Hinata, we've talked about this. I told you I did want to marry you and I did. Why are you so upset? I wanted it because you said you loved me. I thought you did it because you loved me, not because. She couldn't finish her sentence, her sobs were beginning to get intense. But I do. If I wasn't pregnant you never would have. She suddenly shouted and he stepped back. So utterly confused and now possibly scared of her sudden mood swing. That's not true. Yes it is. It's true, you know it. I heard you, Naruto. I heard what you said to Sasuke. I heard what you said, she repeated, sinking to the floor against the door, burying her face in her hands in harsh sobs. He went to her, putting his arms around her, but she pushed him away. She didn't want him to touch her. She didn't want to be near him. Right now she didn't want anything to do with him. He said her name but she ignored him, continuing to push him away. She yelled at him to let her go, to go on his mission and be gone for weeks like he was the last time. She cried and yelled, and then Naruto's face started to get blurry and dark. She heard him say her name until it was a faint echo in the back of her head and she could hear no more. She fluttered her eyelids and took in a deep breath. The smell of a crisp, clean room invaded her nose the same time machine beeps invaded her ears. Her eyes snapped to attention and she took in the hospital room she was in. This was all too familiar. What was she doing here again? She sat up in bed and blood rushed to her head, causing her to groan and drop back down just as fast. Oh good, you're awake. She turned to the voice of a sweetly smiling Dr. Kyoto. What am I doing here? Hinata managed to say with her head strangely still pounding. Seems you had quite the episode. Naruto brought you in near hysterics himself. Some of my nurses actually thought you were Naruto, she repeated, and a wave of guilt she had never felt before washed over her. Oh Naruto, all those horrible things she said to him. Where is he? She asked her doctor, who was putting the tablet back on the foot of her bed. He had to leave on his mission, but he was here all night. He gave me this to give to you when you woke up. She handed her a piece of paper and smiled again. I'll be leaving soon, but I'll have the nurses to check on you. We just need to monitor you and the baby a bit more before we let you go. Is everything okay? Yes, you just overstressed yourself, dangerously, though you were out all night and most of today. Hinata watched her go and waited until she was alone to read the note he gave her. She carefully and slowly sat up in her bed. She unfolded it and her hands went suddenly cold. What would he say to her? Was he mad at her? Would he divorce her when she got back? Hinata, I don't know how to explain things to you the way you want to hear. But I know I can't do it in a letter, so we'll talk about it when I get back, okay? I don't know how long I will be gone, but it will be a while, but I will come back to you. I'll miss you, Naruto. She reread the letter several times until she had it practically memorized. He was gone now. He was gone, and she didn't get to properly say goodbye and tell him to come home safely. She looked at the window lying back down. The wind blew through the trees in the late afternoon. She took a deep breath and spoke into the empty, cold room. Come home safely, Naruto. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.